My biological mother discovered me and wants to get back in touch. But she has expectations. My parents adopted me when I was a youngster and did a DNA test. I was adopted when I was 6 years old, making me a 24M. My adopted parents, who took me in when they were in their late 20s, have always made me feel extremely fortunate. They have been nothing short of extraordinary. As though I were their own flesh and blood, they have supported and loved me, and I have never felt as though anything is lacking in my life as a result of being adopted. I knew very little about my adoption as a child. I am aware that social services took me from my original family because of abuse and neglect, but I have no memory of my life before to adoption. I haven't given it much thought since I've never felt as though I needed those missing bits in order to feel worthy or whole. I just made the decision to get one of those at-home DNA testing kits out of pure curiosity. I only wanted to know more about my genetic background, including why I was split off from my original family and whether there were any health risks I should be mindful of. I wasn't searching for a reunion or any kind of meaningful relationship. It felt like a low-risk option to acquire some answers because I didn't anticipate to locate somebody who was directly connected to me. When I eventually remembered to check the results, around 8 weeks after sending in the kit, I was shocked to see that I matched with BM, my biological mother. She had messaged me to express how happy she was that I had completed the test, and how much she wanted to get back in touch with me and the rest of my biological family. I was unaware that I had a biological little brother who is eager to meet me, but she told me that she thinks about me every day and that I have always been loved. To be honest, her message was overpowering and incredibly emotional. I don't know her at all, so reading those words didn't make me feel anything but unease. I took a long time to write BM a thoughtful reply in which I stated that, although I valued her letter, I had no intention in establishing a connection with her or any other of my original family. I was quite clear that I was doing the DNA test only for informative purposes. That was all I wanted to know: my background, my removal's reason for removal, and perhaps some medical history. If anything I did gave her the incorrect idea, I apologized. After reading my message, BM responded, offering to provide me with all the information I needed, but only if I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop to talk more about our connection. I declined, letting her know that I felt uneasy having a face-to-face conversation. As a compromise, I volunteered to contact you, but I made it clear that all I needed was the information so that we could both get on with our lives. She flatly refused to provide me any information until I agreed to have a face-to-face meeting to talk about our relationship. When I brought this up to my closest friend, she took BM's side and said I was being unjust. She said that I had practically invited this type of circumstance by registering for the DNA site, and that not meeting with BM right away would be tantamount to luring them on and engaging in mind games. So, after registering on the DNA testing website, I would say that I didn't desire a relationship with my biological mother? Pertinent remarks to which the OP has responded. May 1987, Queen __, NTA. She's being Tia by holding your information hostage in order to convince you to meet with her. She most likely wants to fill you in on her version of events, which is why you were gone. Given that you are aware of her name, could you get in touch with the organization that removed you and ask for the details? Well, I could have always contacted social services and asked them for information, but I'm not sure how much they can divulge due to data privacy, so I just figured this would be a simpler option. If you understand what I mean, it would have also been good to hear it from my family's perspective. As a fellow adoptee, Ryodek, I wholeheartedly support NTA. You have no debt to her, but I'd contend that she should have told you more. She is terrible for keeping that knowledge captive because of anything she did that led to the adoption. Your acquaintance is wholly at fault, and I don't find it surprising that they think that way if they aren't adopted. Many non-adopted persons hold strange beliefs about the emotions and behaviors that adoptees ought to experience. Conventional wisdom is that since our adopted parents saved us, we should all be thankful to them. Well, no, they are not adopted, and yes, I can give you an explanation of their viewpoint. Even though I've never sought a relationship with them, they did irritate me by labeling me unjust for not having one. I regret that BM messaged me first after seeing me there and that it could have given her false optimism. I wish I could have been the first to message and immediately share my expectations. Here's a fellow adoptive, Special 77, NTA. I did spend the next 16 years regretting the 16 years I spent meeting my birth mother. Mine is narcissistic and cunning, using the same tactic of promising to tell you everything when I meet you. Nope, refrain from participating. How does it feel to be unwanted? She gave me half-truths, and she's made a concerted effort to force her way into my life whenever I've made it obvious that I don't want her. Donor of eggs. Greetings from an adult in my world. I now have children of my own. My parents were amazing individuals. Even though I didn't have the greatest life ever, I was raised by loving parents who just wanted the best for me. It's challenging since you have different expectations than your BM. The problem is, by keeping the information you seek as a hostage, she is being unfair and unrealistic. I apologize if you have to cope with it. It's unfair to you and it's not proper of her. Well, I realized that it's unlikely that her version of events would have been the whole truth. Still, I was curious to hear it directly from her. I guess I was kind of interested in her and her life. But at this point in my life, I wasn't ready for a relationship. Though she didn't tell me the age of her second kid, depending on circumstances, I could have been willing to meet him at least. It said, it wouldn't have been me saying never. She attempted to force my hand, which made the entire situation unpleasant and left me with a really foul taste in my mouth. I believe I've made up my mind to write her a farewell letter expressing how much I didn't like the fact that I was informed I would only be permitted to know that information if we had a face-to-face meeting and spoke about starting a relationship. I believe I will describe it as manipulating. And that's what further cemented the fact that I have no desire to interact with her. Is that perhaps too much? By telling her that, I'm not going too far, am I? August 27th, 2024, Update 1. Hello to all of you. I felt it was time for an update because it had been around 9 days since my last post. I sincerely appreciate all of the people who took the time to leave remarks and provide guidance. Everything I've read through has been enlightening and useful. I thus made the decision to speak with my biological mother once more after carefully considering all of the suggestions, wishing that perhaps if I clarified myself further, she might be able to appreciate my perspective. Regretfully, things quickly became worse. She became even more manipulative, arguing that I was being selfish for not wanting to meet her in person, instead of attempting to come to an amicable agreement. I told her no hard no since she wouldn't give me any information unless I accepted her requirements. After everything, I've come to the conclusion that my first family may not be as bad as I thought. I mean, there was a reason I was taken out of their care, but I think that part of me wanted to think that people could really change. I feel a little foolish for even beginning this adventure, looking back. It's triggered a lot of feelings that I wasn't really ready to handle, and to be really honest, I'm feeling depressed about the whole thing. What about my closest pal? That's yet another letdown, I suppose. She hasn't just been unsupportive throughout this whole ordeal. She didn't just initially side with my biological mom. I explained the recent chat to her, but she still didn't seem to see why I was acting so unhappy. She insisted that I shouldn't be so harsh and should just give them a chance. She doesn't seem to understand how difficult this is for me, and I'm beginning to believe that she never truly did. It's difficult because although I've always regarded her as one of my closest friends, I'm not sure I can rely on her at this time. I made the decision to discuss everything with my adoptive parents over a meal after all of this. They were fantastic as always, but I hadn't really opened up to them about how much this was hurting me. They informed me that none of this is my fault and expressed their displeasure at the way my biological mom was acting. They reminded me that I was taken out of that circumstance for a reason. And it's not my responsibility to make amends or make things right with those who have obviously not changed. I became aware of how fortunate I am to have them when we had a conversation. They have shown me that no matter what, they are my true family, those who have always loved and supported me, and they have been there for me at every turn. With all that's occurred, it's difficult not to feel depressed, but having them at my side helps a little. To be honest, I'm sorry I even began this entire DNA odyssey. I didn't realize how much grief it would bring up, and I can't help but wish I had simply kept the past in the past. However, concurrently, I am appreciative that it has made me realize how fortunate I am to have my adopted parents. I couldn't ask for a better family since they are the ones who have supported me no matter what. That's where I am right now. I'm going to let go of the others and concentrate on the ones who genuinely care about me. Although I know I'm on the correct track, it's not easy. I want to thank everyone again for their support. It has truly made me feel less alone during this. Everyone, be careful. Second update, August 27th, 2024. Hi everyone, with all that has been going on lately, I have been thinking a lot about my family today. It made me think back on some of my favorite times spent with them, and one particular recollection sticks out. Something I will always remember from my childhood. It may have been only a few years after my adoption when I was 8 years old. I remember being anxious since it was just my second Christmas with my adopted parents, and it was around Christmas time. Even now, holidays still make me feel strange. In any case, that year my dad's friend ran a Christmas tree farm. My parents made the decision to go me tree picking for Christmas. We walked through row after row of trees for what seemed like hours. I remember feeling so much pressure to choose the finest one, or I would ruin Christmas when my parents kept asking which one I preferred. But because of their extreme patience, I was able to take my time. When I finally pointed out a tree, my folks made a big production out of it even though, to be honest, it just looked like every other tree. I recall my dad exclaiming, "Oh no, I think this tree might be too strong for me," as he bent down to begin sawing. My father insisted that I come assist him, stating he was unable to accomplish it on his own, and there I was, this 8-year-old, I'm acting like I'm helping my dad chop this tree down, even though I wasn't really accomplishing anything. They gave me the impression that I was the world's strongest child. We did it, my dad said, sweeping me up in his arms and spinning me around as the tree finally collapsed. My mother pulled out these antique boxes filled with decorations once we arrived home and decorated the tree. She informed me that we were going to begin a new tradition in which we would each choose a new ornament to add to the tree each year, something that would symbolize a noteworthy event from that particular year. They gave me my first ornament that evening. A little wooden bear clutching a heart engraved with the word family. This one's for you, my mother replied, since you completed our family. As I held the ornament, I recall experiencing an overwhelming sense of love and belonging that I had never truly experienced before. I don't believe it really occurred to me at the time how significant that was. How my perception of myself now is shaped by that particular moment. I came from a devoted household. Their family was me. After that, we would take out that tiny wooden bear and be the first to hang it up every Christmas. It became into a custom for us. I've been thinking about this recollection because it serves as a reminder of how fortunate I am to have my parents in my life. They provided me more than just a place to live. They also showed me affection and a feeling of acceptance. I know I have something very wonderful, and I wouldn't exchange it for anything, despite everything that has been going on. I appreciate you allowing me to share this, though. I hope this makes you smile as much as it does me. I simply wanted to remind myself how wonderful my family is. Next narrative. I discovered my wife's hidden diaries and discovered she had been unfaithful to several people for years. I truly need some help right now because I'm still in shock. After 10 years of marriage, my wife, 37F, and I, 40M, just celebrated our 10th anniversary. Together, we have 2 fantastic children. Things haven't been right between us since the start of the year. Since the beginning of the year, she has been acting oddly, agitated, avoiding me, and our intimacy hasn't increased. She is content some days and extremely furious others. She isn't always a bad mother to our children. Sometimes she wishes they hadn't been born. I had to visit the urologist recently because I got a urinary tract infection, and the test results indicated that it may be an STD. Since we started dating, I had only ever been with my wife, so this came as a major shock. She's currently abroad at an alleged business seminar, which I discussed in a separate piece. I read her journals for the first time ever out of desperation, even though she has been keeping them for more than 10 years. It comes out that during the last 2 years, she has had several sexual partners. Specifically, there was an affair going on for more than a year, and it appears that her partner moving on to someone else was a contributing factor in her irritation. I also found out that she has been meeting with other men on a regular basis and has a concealed Tinder account. I cannot express how sad I am. We have 2 small children that are the center of my universe, therefore I feel completely lost and at a loss for what to do. I'm looking for some guidance on how to approach this. Shall I go right up to her right away? Shall I first speak with a lawyer? How can I even begin to deal with this treachery and keep my children safe during it all? I appreciate any advice you can provide me at this very trying time. I appreciate all of your remarks. As everyone is advising, I'll attempt to get in discreet legal consultation as soon as possible, collect as much proof as I can, get the STD treated, and get my kids tested for paternity. To be honest, I can't think clearly right now since I'm such a mess. My mind is racing with ideas of all types. One part of me is full of hate and disdain and wishes I had never met her at all, while the other part of me still loves her and wants to forgive her. Right now, I wish I could just vanish. I appreciate all of your great counsel and assistance. It has been of great assistance at this trying time. My in-laws graciously offered to watch the kids while my wife was gone for her conference following my last article. They still don't know about the chaos I've been going through. During this period, I went through her journals and took images of what was written in them. Every entrance was like a knife to the back, leaving me stunned and in amazement. I simply can't recognize the person I believe to be my friend and lover for more than 10 years. Without getting into too much detail, the disclosures in the diaries are so profound that they dwarf any TV show or film I've ever watched. Over the previous 2 years, she has dated at least 6 different guys. These encounters took place not just at her purported seminars but also at meals, quick business excursions, and other ostensibly work-related gatherings. I was caring for the kids at home in the meantime, mistakenly thinking I was helping her with her work. Some notes, with not a shred of regret, thank me for being a loving spouse and parent and eloquently detail how wonderful these experiences were for her. I'm concerned about her emotional and mental health given her lack of shame and the severity of her lie. I was deeply thinking about suicide as I went through the journals and was overcome with hopelessness. Ultimately, I felt that I had to spend a few days with friends because I couldn't be left alone for fear of doing something irrevocable. They helped put me in touch with a therapist and provided me with a lot of assistance throughout this difficult period. I currently attend weekly therapy sessions on a regular basis. They also assisted me in contacting divorce-focused attorneys. In addition, I'm receiving treatment for my STD. Coming home from my in-laws after picking up the kids was a heartbreaking event. I was unable to muster any smiles. My daughter simply happened to glance at my face as I was thinking of all the ways I might terminate my life. She just came up and put her arms around me without saying anything. That's when I broke down, hugged her, and started crying in front of her. It was almost too much to endure the embarrassment of having thought to leave my children to suffer under their mother's contempt. She's my precious angel. I was so bad at sleeping that I had to use sleeping medications for the first few weeks after learning the truth, in order to get through the evenings. My career and personal life were both negatively impacted by my extreme lack of drive. I pushed myself keep working out, and I discovered that throughout this period, it was the one thing that genuinely improved my mood. Thank you to whoever advised me to keep up with my fitness regimen in the last article. You could have just saved my life. The more my wife got back from her trip, the more stressed she got. At first I had to swallow my distaste for her and the information I had learned about her behavior. Although I've become more accustomed to it lately, it still drains my emotions. She acknowledged that something was strange, but she still acts as though I had no idea what has happened. It's amazing how shameless she is. She recently requested me to get her the costly gift I had promised for our 10th anniversary, but I gave an excuse for not buying it right away since she had left for another work trip the day before, which she had painfully detailed in her journals. I'm starting to feel a lot better these days, owing to treatment and exercise, even though she was even planning to see her most recent lover on my birthday. I had never seen a therapist before, and to be completely honest, I regret not doing so sooner. Even after my wife deceived me in the most horrific way, a small part of me continued to believe that perhaps I was to blame for everything. I blamed myself for a lot of things. Perhaps if I had done this, if I had put more effort into that. My therapist assisted me in seeing through it, and seeing that, although there were things I might have done differently, I ultimately cannot be held accountable for the decisions she made, and that no one should have to be deceived in the manner that I was. If I have any shortcomings, it's that I always put her needs before mine, trust her without reservation, and take full responsibility for everything. I always let her go after. Persuading myself that I was doing it for her, to support her business, to let her relieve stress from being at home, that this is what a supportive husband would do, and that if maybe I had a better job or made her happier, she wouldn't feel the need to escape from home, despite the fact that it was really difficult for me to balance work and looking after the kids alone every time she went on any of these trips. I'm definitely doing a lot better these days, but I'd be lying if I claimed I wasn't depressed at all. I feel more fury than grief these days, and it's the rage that keeps me going. My therapist suggested that I use my anger to fuel my endeavors, and it has unexpectedly been effective. After discussing my case with 2 law firms, I was urged to gather further proof, which I have been putting a lot of effort into over the last few weeks. I finally finished digitizing every one of her extensive collection of diaries from the previous 2 years. When I gained access to her computer, I discovered far too many images, chat messages, and papers to support my claims. She has been sharing all of her exploits on Facebook in a distorted private group, which I have screenshotted extensively. I have also made a list of all the people she has had sex with in her journals, and have been identifying them one by one on social media. I've managed to locate her workplace and the residences of her current sexual partners by gathering as much information as possible. I'm now considering whether or not to confront them. The crazy things I've read in these journals had me thinking that perhaps she was just crafting an odd book until I discovered everything else she had on her computer, etc. Perhaps I am also broken. To be honest though, I'm kind of loving the process of compiling all these little tidbits of data and proof, comparing them to her diaries, and learning as much as I can about her and her loves. Since a large portion of her business is centered around social media, I have a part of me that wants to see her blow up on social media by sharing everything I've found out, but I'm holding myself back because doing so would also negatively impact her parents, who have been nothing but supportive of me since we got married. Since this will certainly ruin her parents as well, I'm not sure if I should tell them about it as well. After speaking with the attorneys further about how to ensure that I get custody of my children, I want to face her. In the nation I now reside in, it is rather unjust for the mother to be granted custody of her children, even in cases where she is unfit, and she also sets the conditions of the divorce and child support. Either way, I appreciate all of your input. A few weeks ago, I was completely hopeless and unsure of how to handle the matter. These days, I feel like I'm slowly but surely pulling myself out of the hole I was put in. I apologize if I don't get back to you on every remark. I am giving my children my whole attention at the moment.